Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and it's one of our regular Tuesday afternoon in the hot seat. Today we've got Katja Mullins from Assured Data Protection, so we'll get her in. How are you doing, Katja? We're ready to go. Hi. We're live. You looked a bit like rabbit in headlights then for a second. How are you getting on?
Lee, I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties and I can't hear you.
Okay, well, we seemed to be fine earlier, so can I just check with Rachel to wave at me? You can hear me, can you? Yes, yeah. So so it's at your end. So Katja's just sorting her audio out. Well, we were fine. We were doing a test earlier and it was all working really well. Then we seem to have some issues now. We've gone live with things. Have you got audio yet?
Sorry, I can't hear anything.
Nothing at all.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
I can hear music playing from you now as well.
Apologies, I'm going to take my headphones out. Can you hear me now?
Have you swapped to speakers now? Have you?
Yes. Yeah.
And you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Right.
So we're a few minutes in now, but we've got the audio sorted. It's amazing because we tested all this beforehand, because we always do a 15-minute check, 15 minutes before to make sure everything's working, and it was perfect. We had a little bit of echo with the speakers, but we got Katja to actually put some earphones in and do it that way, and it was fine until we actually went live, and then everything stops from a technical perspective at Katja's end. But we're off and running again now, which is the main thing. So starting from the beginning, so tell us a little about your background, where you grew up, your parents, what they did for a living, the kind of stuff you were doing at school, and also the kind of thing you were thinking of doing maybe at university or potentially for a job, and where it went to.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, apologies for the technical difficulties. So to start with, if I go right to the beginning, my dad was actually in the army. He was a staff sergeant in the Remain. So I was born in Germany. So from a young age, did a lot of sort of worldwide travel. My mum's from a country called Belize, which is where she actually met my dad. So again, it's sort of back and forth to the Caribbean.
I know Belize quite well. I'm ex-RAF, so it's an RAF station at Belize.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful country, absolutely stunning. I'd rather be there today rather than this weather. So from sort of young age, I'd say a lot of traveling, purely just with my dad being in the forces. But predominantly I grew up in Chesterfield. So that's actually where I live now in Derbyshire. Sort of went to local school, went to a Catholic school actually called St. Mary's. And during my time there, I was really sort of had a keen interest in art. That was sort of where I really saw myself headed into the art world, and just had a real big passion for it. So that actually took me onto college. And instead of just sort of choosing to do art, because I thought there's not many jobs you can go into just purely solely focusing on art, I did graphic design. So made it a little bit more digital, but still with the art background. So did graphic design, then decided that I wanted to get into a strange world actually, which is special effects prosthetic makeup.
So you could do all the blood and the guts and the scars and all the other pieces for theatrical and film work.
Yeah, so very theatrical, still down the art road. And just purely because of the nature of the subject, it's quite niche, as you can imagine. So one of the only universities that does that subject is Bournemouth, which is quite far away from where I live. So that is about 6 hours, I think, down to Bournemouth. Now, I went to 2 open days, determined that I wanted to do this course, But what really held me back was just the travel. Obviously, I'm from a very small town, so it's quite daunting, the thought at 18 years old, moving all the way down to Bournemouth.
Yeah,
So
Bournemouth's like a city on the sea as well, isn't it?
absolutely, yeah, it's completely different lifestyle, massive change. And I went down there with good intentions both times to move down there, and then sort of at the last minute thought, I just can't do it. The fear hit me at such a young age, and yeah, so I didn't. So while all my sort of fellow students that did graphic design, while they went to uni to do graphic design, I wasn't quite there and ready, purely because of the fact that I had it in my head that I wanted to do this subject. That wasn't what I wanted to do, and I would just be sort of following everybody else in going and doing graphic design. So I just got into the world of work, and just sort of got part-time jobs, got a couple of full-time jobs, but never what I really wanted to do. So I went to uni a little bit later. So I actually went when I was 22 and did business and management. So because
That's
of
a
that,
bit different to graphic design and prosthetics, isn't it?
it is. It really is, Lee, to be fair, but it was quite a broad subject that I thought would cover me with any job that I sort of wanted to go into. But I've still got myself that degree, that experience. And like I say, because it's so broad, it wasn't just limiting myself to a subject, which is what I would have been doing beforehand. So, yeah, so I did 3 years. I actually studied at Staffordshire University, but I did it on a campus in Chesterfield. Got my degree and then moved to London following getting my degree and got my first proper job.
So what was the first proper job then?
So the first proper job was, it was a software company. They're actually called Wazoku, and they provide an innovative technology for an idea platform. So that was because it was sort of the first graduate job as well. It was very much the sort of cold sales, cold calling, very much into the thick of it. However, I had a really, really good manager and leader from working there. She was very knowledgeable in the world of sales, very knowledgeable in tech. And I learned a lot from that job. It was hard. Obviously, the London lifestyle was completely different as well. It was very long working hours, but I just learned so much from her and from everybody on my team as well, that it just really sort of has grown me into the person I am today and really kick-started my career as well.
So, because you've worked down in London and lived there, so tell us the difference between, say, working in a job in London and living there, as to opposed to doing a tech job, working out of Chesterfield or somewhere, where you are at the moment.
I think it's just purely the lifestyle, and they obviously refer to it as the rat race down there, and it just everything is going at 100 miles an hour. Now, there's a massive difference in even just getting to work. Obviously, the main form of transport is the tubes, which I had to navigate myself around and get used to. And it's just a completely different way of life down there compared to small town Chesterfield. But again, it really opened my eyes, and you just get this different kind of experience that I would have never got from staying in Chesterfield. And like I say, I learned loads. You get to meet so many different people from different backgrounds, and the experience that people have as well. It's fascinating, and it really does help you sort of grow as a person. And I grew up from going down to London.
So what came next then?
So from then, purely we know the expense that comes with living in London, and I really wanted to buy a house. So the sort of obvious way forward to do that was to move back up north. So I left working at Wazoku, and I actually got a job at Coca-Cola, only for a little while. It was for about 6 months, but that was a very field sales-based role, which for me is just not right. It was a great company, as you can imagine, working for, but it just wasn't right. And again, it wasn't really in the area I wanted to be in. I really enjoyed the software side of things, the tech side of things, and that was just completely different.
Yeah.
So from there, I got a job working at Exclusive Networks, the distributor. So entered into this crazy, amazing world of cybersecurity. Really, really enjoyed my time there. I learned, again, so much from being there, this industry that I would have never, ever given a second thought to. It's not something that I'd ever really heard of. And if you're not in a big business, it's not really something you come across. So that really sort of opened my eyes. The different technologies that Exclusive Networks sells as well. There's a lot of them. I think we had about 36 different vendors. And again, each sort of covering a different aspect of cybersecurity. Again, so fascinating. Really, really enjoyed it. And it was
what did you look after then? What particular vendor?
So predominantly Fortinet was the vendor that I looked after. I did quite a bit of
firewalls predominantly, and
Palo Alto as well, definitely predominantly firewalls. Covered a few of the other vendors, but my main accounts were Fortinet based. And again, even Fortinet's portfolio is huge. With the amount of stuff that they cover is, again, so fascinating. You learn so much. And from being there, I found my career path. I wanted to be in this industry. I found it so interesting. And yeah, it's just, I'm really glad that I found working there. And they were actually based in Chesterfield. They have a head office down in Alton, but based in Chesterfield. Again, something I would never, ever have thought of. But that move obviously sort of got me back up here and found what I really wanted to do.
Okay, so what came next then? So you're working for Exclusive Networks. You've got some background in cybersecurity around Fortinet and firewall technology. Palo Alto again. So what was the next step? What should move you forward to where you are today?
So following that, I actually moved to another distributor called Distology.
Up in Manchester.
Yeah. Indeed, yeah, because I actually made another move to Manchester. Clearly like to move around a lot. And at Distology, I was the vendor lead for Logarithm. So there I even learned a different technology as well in the sort of SIEM area and NDR. And yeah, really, again, fascinating technology, really interesting, and sort of was able to grow at Distology as well. Learned from great people, met great people there as well. But again, it was sort of, I'm clearly drawn back to Chesterfield because I wanted to buy my second house and ended up coming back to Chesterfield.
Is that a second house having two houses or just upgrading the first one?
It's actually having two houses, yes.
Yeah. So indeed. How do you live between two houses then?
Oh, sorry. It is an upgrade. Yeah. So this is the second house.
Okay. Yeah. So you're at Distology. How long were you there?
I was at Distology for about 8 months.
8 months. Okay. So tell us the next stage of your journey then.
So the next stage of the journey is actually where I am now, which is assured data protection. And I've been working here for about 3 months now. And again, absolutely love it. Fascinating technology because they predominantly use Rubrik. So they are a managed service using the Rubrik technology. Now, even just from where I'm working now and the people that I'm working around, the experience is phenomenal. So it's really interesting that the level of expertise in this industry, it just blows my mind, really. And I find it very fascinating. Rubrik is a very fascinating technology, so clever. And yeah, this is where I am today. And from working here, I've found my career, which is amazing. It's sort of the different steps in which it's taken for me to get here. But now I feel completely settled. This is what I want to do. But of course, from my previous roles and different jobs and the different experiences that I've gained, it's sort of got me to this point, which I'm very thankful for.
Everything you do in life you learn from, don't you? And sometimes you have to make some mistakes to learn from those mistakes and then find where you really want to be. So everybody's going to take that journey and make decisions as they go along. For people who don't know anything about Rubric is a modular technology that works a bit like hyperconverged infrastructure that was used for compute and storage, but actually to do data protection. So it's you have nodes that fit together into a cluster, and that will do then snapshotting of your physical, virtual, or even cloud-based environment. And you can also do some work around SaaS-based services, and it gives you a really simple way to recover rather quickly as well. And they've got some really good technologies around looking at ransomware detection as well, so that if something happens, you can actually get that notification that something's going wrong that shouldn't be, so you can actually deal with it quickly as well. So an interesting technology. But what Assured Data Protection have done is effectively taken that technology and delivered it as a service, because normally someone will buy a cluster from Rubric and implement it themselves, and they'd have to look after it themselves. And the idea with what Assured Data Protection are doing is they provide the infrastructure. So they'll design it, they'll deploy it, and they'll actually run it as a service for you afterwards. Plus, the other thing is it can actually go smaller as well. So one of the problems with Rubric, there is a minimum size. So it can be a little larger and a little more expensive than most customers would want. So with Assured Data Protection, they can offer a cut down version from a size perspective, which is the main thing. So tell us what the things that you're doing at ADP then.
Yeah, so I'm one of the senior business and channel development managers. Bit of a mouthful. So we are predominantly channel based. So I work very closely with partners and end users to really help them with their backup needs, disaster recovery needs, Office 365 backup, and threat detection as well. So yeah, it's just about building those partnerships, working really closely, understanding the different needs and requirements from partners and from end users, and really sort of helping to create a bespoke package for them to sort of help in however their needs look, and be really sort of flexible to be able to make sure that we can help in that sense. So we've obviously got a dedicated tech team as well, in which we can help really bespoke those different opportunities, those different packages for them.
So what type of companies have you worked with so far?
So again, because we're sort of channel based, it's the different opportunities that partners bring to us. So there's been a lot of different verticals, actually, to be fair. There's been a lot of public sector, there's universities that were helping, commercial, there's a lot of different verticals. And again, I find it very fascinating because it's not like it affects a specific vertical, it is everywhere. And we all know that sort of people getting hacked, it's happening left, right, and centre, especially with the sort of pandemic that's gone on. It's really not stopping for anybody. So it's a case of really helping those people have cover and being prepared should the worst happen.
I think, Sam, we're doing a customer conference tomorrow, and I've got a bit of a briefing around security for people that are joining us tomorrow, and a couple of things that have been put out by the government and other groups. There's a 10-point check, and one of the key ones is making sure you're protecting your data, because without your data, you're going to struggle to operate as a business going forward. And a couple of things to think about is how far back you've got to go. So what's your restore point objective in the trade? So how far back do you have to go? And also going forward, what's your restore time objective? So how long is it going to take you to recover? And the gap between the two is how long you're out of service, so you're not delivering anything to your customers. And I'll be covering that off with our customers tomorrow, talking about what the challenges are in data protection. But commonly with something like Rubric, you're looking at hours or minutes, depending on how important the data is to you, and recovery of anything from 20 seconds up to a few minutes. So you can actually recover really quickly, and that's one of the key things from these type of services. But also having the ability to have people who are professional, understand how to do data protection, available to support you, because a lot of organizations these days don't have their own data recovery specialists or backup specialists. They don't have those people anymore. Everybody's more of a generalist, so having specific people is going to make a big difference. So what did you learn new that when you came to ADP that you hadn't covered before? You got a bit of a background in that security side of things. Was it mainly the in fact you'd seen Rubrik, I would assume, when you were exclusive networks? Was that right?
Absolutely, yeah. I had sort of touched on it while I was at exclusive, but never really gone into depth. And that's something that from being here is really opened my eyes, and I've been able to really immerse myself in this backup world that before I didn't really have that understanding, because I was predominantly focused on the firewall side. So it's so interesting to see this backup and the disaster recovery and what can be sort of achieved with this technology. That's something that I really didn't know before. And it's absolutely crucial for business as well, which again I find fascinating, because it's this complete area that you'd never even think of. So yeah, it's really sort of a learning curve in that sense, and really sort of good to understand this side of security, as it were. And we also do threat detection, which has been great to learn about. Before I did sort of endpoint and network detection and response in my previous role, but this is interesting because the threat detection we provide sits at a server level, so it's like an extra layer of security. So again, it's been really interesting to learn.
Yeah, so we talk to a lot of customers, and we say it's great having the best locks and the best window locks and best alarm system, in your house. But if you invite the actual person in, so one of your employees accidentally clicks on a link and allows someone access to their machine, then they can compromise one of the servers. It doesn't matter how good the locks and the alarm are. Once they're inside the system, it's difficult to do anything out. But if you've got that detection actually on all your infrastructure internally, then it's going to be more difficult for them to be able to do anything, because you're going to know about it quickly. You'll also be able to automate the process to stop that happening, which is really important as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is just the different layers of security that people need, and they think, oh, we'll have a firewall and everything will be fine. And it's an accumulation of everything that really sort of paints that picture in that cyber resiliency piece.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is as well, coming back to what I mentioned about with the backup side of things. Most organizations can't afford dedicated security people, or even pay the fees for a dedicated security person. Some of them are very, very expensive. So those SMEs and micro businesses are relying on third parties to deal with it. And again, a lot of those don't specialize in this area. There might be more generalist IT people. So having someone who actually can specialize on the security as well as the backup and recovery for them and deliver it as a service is going to make a big difference to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about the plans going forward with ADP. Have you got more products and services being delivered in the future? Are you just stabilizing and building out your reseller base? What kind of things are you doing at the moment?
So we've actually got our annual kickoff. It's this week, actually, on Thursday, where we're going to learn a lot about what's coming for ADP, which is very exciting. Obviously, the technology, especially with Rubrik, is always evolving. So we will be finding out about all the different aspects that are coming, which will be great. But there's also the likes of sort of our marketing events that we've got throughout the year. that's something that we can focus on and work with partners and end users to really sort of build these big events and get our name out. So that's exciting. And then in terms of myself, it's just a case of working really hard with dedicated partners and really building that pipeline, those opportunities, seeing where we can help people have that influence as well. So yeah, it's exciting what's coming, but keen to learn more, and I can tell you more after Thursday.
Oh, that's it. So we've been putting some information up on the screen as we've been going along. So, if you want to check out ADP and their website, you've got assure-dp.com. We've also had Katja's LinkedIn profile on there if you want to connect on LinkedIn and get to know more about Katja and the ADP services as well. Also, we've got a piece about joining us as well. So if you'd like to get in touch with us and actually know more about it, we actually work with ADP and offer those services. You can contact us or myself or Rachel to do that. But also, if you'd like to join us for one of these sessions and tell people about your journey as well, that would be great. Drop us an email and we'll get you booked in to come and join us as well. So one thing I did say beforehand, there was going to be a couple of questions at the end. So the first one was about meals. So what's the best meal you ever had? What was it, and why was it the best meal you've ever had?
So the best meal I've ever had was actually in Rhodes last year. So I went with one of my best friends over to Rhodes, and we went to a restaurant called Rhonda, and I had a fillet steak, which is just my ultimate all-time favorite anyway. But what made it the best meal was just the setting was incredible. So at Rhonda, you'll have to look it up, Lee. It's got these sort of like wicker lampshades, but hundreds of them. It's just so scenic and beautiful, and you're sat right next to the sea. So the whole setting is just mesmerizing. It's one of them that you think, I can't believe I'm actually here and I'm actually seeing this. And it was just amazing. I had obviously amazing company being there with my best friend. Lucky enough to be able to go on holiday as well last year because it's been a hard time. So I was grateful for that and feeling amazing. But then also just got this setting of these amazing sort of lampshades and the sea, and just even with the sea breeze, the sort of rocking, and it was just gorgeous. So that's sort of the best meal I've ever had because the whole experience itself.
Coming on to that then, so how has the last 2 years affected you personally then? Has it been difficult to work? And, it sounds like you at least got a way to have a holiday, but have you been a bit challenged with the way you're working these days, or has it been quite straightforward?
To be fair, in this industry, it's not really changed a lot for me other than being very busy, which is obviously a good thing. But the pandemic sort of had a big rise in hackers, and it's obviously such a terrible time. But in a work sense, I was sort of busier more than ever. I'm somebody that likes to travel a lot. So that side of things was very difficult, and obviously not being able to see people, and that was very hard. And I know it's been really hard on everyone. And from a work sense, it's been a case of obviously there's been hybrid working, there's been obvious having to work from home, which is difficult as well. I really like to be in an office, I like to be around people. And then there was just the challenge of having to stay at home. But yeah, the pandemic it's been a very strange one because it's been such an awful time, and hackers have sort of taken advantage of the situation, and everything just blown up massive. So, but again, it's a good feeling to be able to work hard and be able to cover people where they obviously need it most when people are taking advantage of such a terrible time. So it's been a strange couple of years, very strange. Hopefully we're getting out of it and things are going back to normal, but it has been bizarre.
What about family? Have you got family still in Belize?
I have actually, yes. I've got my my grandma is still in Belize, and my uncle as well, and his family. So it would be good to be able to get over and go and see them because it's been quite a long time since I've been. But yeah, I've still got family over there. It's just a case of when we're being able to go and see them.
Yeah, I'll say, because a lot of people have been separated from family. They've got family living in different countries, so it's affected a lot of people. So the second question we primed you with is, what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
So this is a funny one, because as a adventurous person, I'm not very. I mean, I've done the stuff like parasailing in Tunisia. I've done that, but for me personally, the most adventurous thing I've ever done is making that move down to London. So
Yeah,
because I'm from such a small town, everybody knows everybody here. It's a certain way of life, as all small towns have got. And it was completely sort of breaking away from that, out of my comfort zone, living this crazy fast-paced life down there that was just, it was crazy for me, insane. Something that I'm very proud of. I'm glad that I did it. I couldn't have stayed there forever, but I would say that's definitely the most adventurous thing I've ever done. And I'm still.
Would you do it again?
Oh,
now you've experienced it. Would you live in London and work in London again?
Honestly, I wouldn't. No. I love to go down, but to go down as a tourist, tourist only. I wouldn't like to go down and live there again. My brother lives down there, and he's built a life down there and has really sort of adjusted to it. But for me, it's just not something I could do sort of long term at all. Like I say, I like to go down, be a tourist, take the photographs, but that's about it.
Okay. Well, thanks ever so much for joining us today. It's been great having you on. If you can stay on afterwards, and we'll just have a quick chat how things have gone. We're going to shut things down in a second, but we have got a couple more people. We've got Mike Dingley this week joining us on Thursday at 3 p.m. And also we've got some lined up for next week as well. We've got Nigel Jinks on Tuesday next week. So we're always setting up new people, and so these are going to be quite interesting. So we've got Mike Dingley's actually an estate agent, runs an estate agency business, so something completely different. And Neil Jinks actually works with the courts to do enforcement. So that'll be an interesting conversation as well next week. But again, anybody's interested, get in touch with me or Rachel, lee.cassidy@tactiletechnology.com or rachel.gould@tactiletechnology.com, and we'll get you set up with one of these sessions. All right. Well, thanks ever so much, Katja. I'll catch you in a few minutes.
Thanks so much, Lee.